One common complaint that we hear when we meet with couples is that their parenting styles are just so different.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think they mean by that?
Well, usually what they mean is that they have very different expectations for how their home is going to be run and the expectations for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's normal, but we need to unpack, what is this parenting style all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So our goal for this episode is to unpack that, like Kim just said. What do these parenting style things really mean? And we want to give you some practical steps that are going to help you get more on the same page and then set you up with some resources that'll help you learn beyond this episode. So we're going to dive into all that in just a minute. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your step family from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of step family life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Well, hey, welcome to episode 4. We are so excited to jump in. Last week we actually launched our podcast. We launched with 3 episodes, and at the time that we're recording this, we've had over 100 listeners, and I'm super excited about that. So hopefully we're bringing some value. We're excited. So when you have a chance, if you're listening right now, just take a second to hit subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's Stitcher or iTunes or Spotify, so that you don't miss out. And when you have a minute, leave us a rating, leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback because we want to keep making this better for you. So let's dive into this whole parenting styles thing.
Oh, yeah, it's complicated.
It is. And, I think you're really right, honey. A second ago, you said that really what's going on often when couples are complaining about this is that we have different expectations for how we're going to run the home and what our expectations are for the behavior and things like that. And sometimes that gets confused with what parenting styles actually are.
Yeah, we need to talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, there's a lot of research that's done around what parenting styles are, and lots of books and writing and all kinds of things. And one that we've kind of landed on is a psychologist named Diana Baumrind. And she's known for her work around parenting styles specifically. And kind of the way she describes some things, there's some common ways that parents will try to influence their kids' behavior. That's parenting, right? And so here's just a few ways that she's kind of created these parenting style ideas.
Yeah, they're the main ways.
Absolutely. So one of the ways is that she calls some parents permissive parents, right? Often permissive parents are reluctant to impose rules or standards. And they kind of prefer to let their kids regulate themselves. They're trying to be a buddy as opposed to a parent. And that can be really challenging for them and for kids, especially and for partners as well.
It might feel really good in the moment, but it's not always the best course of action for the kids.
Exactly. Another way that Diana explains how we tend to parent is as an authoritarian parent. And that's a parent who demands obedience for their kid, from their kids. Often they use harsh punishments. Sometimes they are shaming in the way that they talk to them. And they're really focused on getting the kids to comply. Yeah. That can be really challenging.
Not a lot of empathy.
Yeah. My stepmom was kind of around that area, but that's an authoritarian.
It's a bit like a boot camp.
Yeah. Now, a third way that Diana Baumrind explains is being an authoritative parent. Now, that's not the same as authoritarian. I know they sound very much the same, but authoritative is very, very different from authoritarian. Authoritative parents, they set and they enforce high standards for their kids. They do have expectations for their kids, but they do it in a way that also emotionally responds to the kids with care and respect.
Yeah.
And actually, this parenting style, the authoritative parenting style, is the one that we want to be shooting for, but it's equally firm and loving at the same time.
That's that good balance.
Yes.
Now, according to one of the step family experts that we really like, Patricia Papernow, this authoritative parenting style is the best predictor of better outcomes for our kids, really on every measure imaginable. Their emotional well-being, their social competence, academic performance, and just their general behavior. This is really the best outcomes. So there's a massive amount of research that confirms this, and it actually confirms it in all family forms.
That's right.
In the never divorced, first family, in the single parent homes, and also for step families across the board, authoritative parenting style has the best outcomes. Now,
so wait. So what we're saying here is we get these couples who come to us and they're saying, man, our parenting styles are just so different. And often we kind of talk through, well, it's okay that you're different. But what we're saying here now is that there's some research-backed evidence that there's one primary parenting style that all of us, parents, step parents, all of us actually need to be shooting for. Is that right?
That's right. This is where we want to strive for. Now, none of us are going to do this perfectly. And that's okay. We all tend to fall into one of these categories. I tend to be more permissive, as you know, honey. You tend to be more authoritative. But we both try to move towards that authoritative. Did I say that right?
That's okay.
The words are complicated.
You tend to be a little more permissive.
Yes.
I tend to lean more toward authoritarian. That's right. But what we both want to be working toward is becoming more authoritative. So when we start complaining about parenting style differences, we've got to start wondering, well, wait a second, what are we both doing to move toward what research says is absolutely the best for our kids? Is that right?
Yep. Now, the challenge is to actually living in that authoritative parenting style and dealing with all our different expectations, because we've got a little bit of both that. It's going to play out in a lot of different ways in our home. So today we want to focus on some of the common themes that we hear about. Well, one of the common themes that we hear about, it's really common, and it's one that we've struggled with. And we're going to use this as an example to kind of just illustrate how this plays out.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways, but let's talk about the dinner table.
Dun,
the dinner
dun,
table
dun.
can be a lot of challenge. It can bring up all kinds of issues, right? It can bring up issues about manners. It can bring up issues about expectations when it comes to helping with cooking and cleaning and all of that. And we're going to talk a little bit about eating our food. That can be really challenging. And part of the issue here is that when it comes to blended families, the tensions are usually highest when the whole family is together.
Yeah, so be aware of that off the bat.
And we have this idea that the dinner table sometimes is kind of a sacred space in our culture where we want to come together and talk and all that. And when it doesn't go well, it can be really challenging and disappointing as well. And the other thing is, we tend to focus on how we've always done it.
Right.
We've spent some time as single parents. We've set up kind of our own ideas about how we want to do things. And those don't always match up,
We're
right?
merging cultures now.
Yeah, they're different expectations. And we also get stuck believing that our way is the right way.
Oh, yeah, of
and
course.
that is a dangerous game. So not exactly a recipe for a relaxing, happy family connection time, is it?
But we're going to talk about the dinner table
we are going to talk about it.
when it comes to this.
There's lots of ways this plays out, but here's just one. And we hear this from other couples, and it's one that we've struggled with as well. I have a belief when it comes to the dinner table, I don't want to waste food. And I think that equates to I also don't want to waste money. And so when food gets put on the kid's plate and then, part or half or however much of it gets left on the plate, that's a real point of frustration for me. Like that can make me angry.
Like
that
you
can
mean
make me
when
mad.
it gets thrown away.
Yeah, it just gets left on the plate and down the garbage disposal it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real struggle that I have when it comes to dinner table. But you have a different struggle, don't you?
Yeah. Well, you tend to get stuck in that, finish everything on your plate. You can't get up until you finish everything on your plate. Yeah. And we tend to parent how we're raised. That's another good point. But I really want to support healthy eating habits. I want the kids to be able to monitor how much food they need. And I don't want to force the kids to eat. I feel like that could lead to some really dangerous disorders around eating and unhealthy things. So I don't agree with that rule that they have to clear their plates before they leave the table.
Yeah. So we have differing expectations. Yeah.
Now, we can't solve all of this in a single podcast episode, but we're just going to talk about how we can begin to get united in our expectations and how we can start to focus on that authoritative parenting style together as a team, right? Because we want to be a team.
We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. What's the first step then?
The first step is we want to emphasize on what we do have in common, right? And we do that by focusing on our shared values. What do we have that's in common? A lot of times couples, they get stuck in focusing on all the things that they disagree on. We're so different. We can't agree on anything.
Oh, have we been stuck there before?
Oh, yes. But what could be different if we took some intentional time and just sat down and focused on what we do agree on? And to do that, there's a couple things we need to do. First, we have to really listen to each other's points of view and have empathy. I had to really sit down and listen to you. You're right. That is a waste of money. You work hard for, we both work hard for our money. We don't want to just throw food away, and we don't want to teach our kids that it's okay to be wasteful.
That's right.
So I had to sit and really empathize with you.
And, I think before we ever talked about this, being a kid who was raised kind of in a home where it was like, you clear your plate. That's just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It never even occurred to me that kind of setup, it is possible that it could set up some really unhealthy habits for our kids. And so I had to really take some time to listen to you about that as well. Yeah.
So we want to try to identify each other's strengths. Okay. Consider what you kind of bring to the table.
That was good. Is that a pun?
I don't do puns. You're the pun person.
It was a good try.
Step parents there are a little bit more objectively positioned. There's nothing wrong with a step parent offering a different perspective. Of course, bio parents, we need to be open to hearing that perspective and not shut down.
So that's a big point right there.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times, would you say as a bio parent that you kind of get locked into a thought of, well, wait a second, I know my kids and I know what they need and how they parent them. You just butt out.
Oh, yeah, especially early on in our marriage. But
so being open.
Yeah, being open to listening to the step parent's perspective without getting defensive and shutting down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Realize that they have some value to offer.
Now, step parents, that doesn't give you license to say, okay, I'm going to give you everything I think, right?
Yeah, timing is everything there, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. The reality is bio parents have been around since that child was born.
Yeah.
They know their history. They know their hurts. They know their hangups. And that's something that sometimes we have a hard time understanding as step parents and empathizing with. But if we're going to really move toward discovering those shared values and where we do agree, that you're right, we're going to have to focus on listening and having empathy for each other. And we both bring value.
Strengths,
we both bring strengths to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Heather Hetschler, she's another step family expert that we really appreciate. Yeah. She has a great positive perspective on this, and listen to this from a positive viewpoint, please. Yeah. And here's the quote. She says, a parent looks at their kids through the lens of love first, a step parent through the lens of responsibility first. And the view can be very different.
Yeah.
It's okay that you have different views of the kids, but you both bring something of value.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can both bring that to the table, then you can probably find new ways to work together.
Yep.
Yeah. So part of that whole listening and having empathy is really learning how to honor each other's values.
Yeah.
Then. Would you agree with that?
We all come into this blended family with set values and thoughts around how we want to raise these kids.
Absolutely. So we want to work toward a compromise then that we can both genuinely live out together.
Yeah, that's key right there.
Yeah. And that means I've got to really listen and understand what's important to Kim. I got to be able to onboard Kim's value of wanting to make sure that the kids develop healthy eating habits. And so forcing them to eat whatever's on their plate may not be the answer to this dinner table dilemma that we have going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And vice versa. You know, again, I need to listen and understand that there's great value in Mike's perspective as well.
Yeah. I wonder, here's a question that any couple can think about, what would it look like if we just started to care about what our spouse cares about? That's really the bottom line of figuring out these values and how we're going to really genuinely onboard each other's values. How can I care about what Kim cares about? And how can she care about what I care about?
Yeah. It's interesting because when couples do come to us and state, we just have such different parenting styles. Once we start talking to them and listening to their points of pain, it really tends to be about them wanting to dig in their heels. We've got to do it my way. This is the way we've always done it. This is what's best.
Well, my way is the right way, right?
Yeah, but they really shut down to hearing the other side.
Yeah. This is not actually that easy of a conversation.
No,
we might be making it seem really simple.
This is really difficult.
But it can be challenging. And we've developed a step-by-step system to help couples achieve this. And we have it in one of our online courses that really helps you dive deep into this subject and really be a rock star in this whole area of shared values in your family. So we'll link to that in the show notes. You'll just be able to go to support.mikeandkimcoaching.com/004. And remember, it's support.mikeandkimcoaching.com /004.
Yeah, that's just one of the resources we want to throw out there where you can go deeper.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing that's really important. Even after you've identified your shared values and you come to some agreements, some compromises, there's still a danger zone for blended families here. And that's being unclear on each of your roles as bio-parent and step-parent when it comes to interacting with the kids and step-kids around parenting and discipline and direction. It's really important because you each have a specific job to do and your jobs are different.
That's true. They're separate.
There's a different approach. And that can get even more complicated if you're in a complex blended family where you both have brought kids into the relationship. It can get really crazy.
Yeah, because you're constantly a bio-parent and a step-parent.
Yeah,
in that
you're switching
situation.
hats.
Yeah.
Now, when we're dealing with discipline, we want to be intentional about how we safeguard all of the relationships, especially those step relationships in the home. Even when you have to hold a hard line and give kids consequences, or if you're just generally wanting to influence their behavior, there's a right way to go about that in a blended family. We've got to be intentional.
Yeah. Discipline can be one area that can really wreak havoc in the relationships, not only in the bio relationships, but also between a step parent and a stepchild, and sometimes between the couple too.
Oh, definitely between the couple.
Yeah, which is what we're talking about
here,
that
right? All the time.
And this comes right back around to where that frustration is, well, our parenting styles are just so different. And man, it's tough to see someone else dealing with your child.
Parenting your child.
Yeah. And so we've got to understand what our role really is.
So we have to mention that. We don't have time to cover that right now. But we want to give you a resource so you can go deeper in that. If you're unclear, you want to get clear. And we have a blog. It's called How to Parent as a Team and steer clear of power struggles. Yeah, that's what we all want to do.
Yep.
So we're going to put a link to that blog in the show notes. Now, of course, we're going to go deeper into this topic in future episodes. It's such a big topic. But for now, you can just check out that blog and start really clarifying what's your role, what's my role, and how are we going to play this out with the kids.
Yeah, that's really good. All right. So you're going to figure out how you're going to define your shared values. You're going to start to understand your separate roles.
Yeah.
Right. This is really
very important.
These are two key steps in figuring out this whole parenting style dilemma. Well, now what? Like, how do you actually begin to live all this out when the kids are acting out, you're at your wit's end, and you're just not sure what to do, right?
Yeah.
And we've already established that authoritative parenting style is the best way to get long-term positive results for our kids and our stepkids. And that's research-backed. This is not anecdotal. It's not just a guess. There is a ton of research.
Look it up.
Around this.
There's
Absolutely.
tons of stuff.
So then the question is, well, then how in the world do we start to move toward that authoritative parenting style together as a team and actually make that happen in the chaos of daily life?
How are we consistent with that?
Well, we found that we've had to figure out how to use a parenting method that we could both agree on.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Right? It's a specific system or a specific method, and there's several out there. But the best one for us anyway that we've discovered, the one that really helped us to be that authoritative parent where we could be both firm and loving at the same time, which is what we all are called to do, is called Love and Logic. Now, a simple start with Love and Logic is just to grab a copy of their book, which again, we'll link to in the show notes for you. Maybe you even find a copy of that at your local library. So it's pretty easy to have access. They've got lots of materials. You might look up one of their classes. Communities all over the U.S. have local classes being taught at their community or technical college, maybe in a local church. Or if you can't find one that's local, I'm pretty sure they have a couple of online courses as well that you could really benefit from. But the point here is that you want to find a parenting method that both of you as a team can agree on that's going to help you be firm and loving, and it's going to give you a process for holding boundaries with all the kids, right? We want to have the same standards for all the kids across the board, and it'll help you stay focused as a team, and really it'll help safeguard your relationship because now you're working toward what you really want for your kids together as opposed to feeling pulled apart. Now, here's what's really interesting about this. Kim and I've spent a lot of years trying to really implement Love and Logic in our home, but we don't do it exactly the same way.
No.
Right? Just because we're both working toward that authoritative parenting style actually doesn't mean that we're going to get there in exactly the same way. And we've got to recognize that Kim, our partner's going to do it a little bit differently than we do, but it doesn't mean that we are completely opposed in our parenting style. We're still working toward the same goal. And that can be a huge relief for couples in their parenting, in the discipline, and in their own relationship as they continue to move forward. So we really challenge you to think about what would it look like to get a hold of a parenting method that we both agree on that we can work toward as a team.
Or do some research on authoritative parenting, and especially if you weren't raised with an authoritative parent. That can be really tough. Like Mike touched on that his stepmom was very the opposite.
Authoritarian.
Yes. And I had a permissive upbringing, so I tend to parent permissively. So if you didn't have a good example growing up of authoritative parenting, this is a great area of growth, and we can all grow and learn in our parenting journey. And I feel like we need to resolve the dinner table struggle.
Okay, let's resolve it. Let's resolve it.
Just a little bit.
We've been waiting like 18 years to resolve it, so tell me about
that. Well, just one example of a compromise that we've come to and that other couples have come to as well, because both Mike's values around not wanting to waste food and my values around healthy eating, they're both valid. No one's right or wrong here.
That's right.
They're both valid. So a compromise that we've come to is we allow our kids to scoop their own food. We don't build the plate for them. We allow them to do that.
And that's age appropriate.
Age appropriate, of course. You're not going to do that with, a 2-year-old. But
Right.
once they get to the age where they can start to decide how hungry they are, how much food they're going to need, they can scoop out the appropriate amount of food. And then the expectation that's laid down is whatever you scoop, you eat.
Yep. However, if we scoop it, if we serve it up, then I got to let it go that I'm not going to force them to eat the whole thing. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one simple way to find a compromise. There's lots of different ways.
That's just one example of a possible compromise after we, wrestled this and talked it through and decided that maybe this is a good way to go because Mike's values are being honored. We're not throwing tons of food down the garbage disposal.
Yep.
And my values are being honored because the kids are monitoring what they're eating. They're not being forced to eat.
They're being taught how to monitor what they're eating. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's a great point. And so now what we've done is we've honored both of our values, like we talked about a little while ago. When it comes to actually living that out, we've figured out our roles. And when it came to Annika, who's your daughter, I'm stepdad, if you don't know our story already, but she was our pre-existing child.
Yes.
Kim had to deliver the consequences or enforce the boundaries with her specifically. And that had to do with playing our roles well. And so we had to live it out really well.
Yeah. And Mike was my backup.
Absolutely.
As far as behind closed doors, he supported me. We talked about what the expectations would be. We were a team behind closed doors.
Yep. And then finally, when it came to the blow-ups, which we've had plenty over the years,
those.
We had to work the process of the Love and Logic parent, which is the parenting method we chose to do.
Yes.
So you see, it all kind of plays out even in this one little scenario. And this comes up over and over again. It could be everything from, what we do with our bikes in the driveway at the end of the day to how we get homework done to
taking off shoes before you come in. Yeah.
Keeping the living room area clean. I mean, we could sit here for another half an hour and list all the ways that this whole thing plays out.
Yeah.
And so if you don't take anything else away from this episode, keep in mind that often when we talk about parenting styles and we're frustrated with that, what we're really talking about is we have different expectations between the two of us for what the kids are going to do and how they're going to behave. And what we've really got to get down to is how we get those expectations in line as a couple.
And then move towards being authoritative as a team.
That's right.
Both loving and firm towards the kids.
That's right. All right.
So we've got a challenge for you. We want you to take one step forward. Okay, today, don't let this be the end of your journey about different parenting styles.
That's right.
Take one step forward in one of these 3 areas that we talked about. And we talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So just one step in one of these areas.
Yep.
First, you could get clear on your shared values. If that's an area that you haven't sat down and talked about, where is our common ground? What are our family values?
Yeah.
Check out our course. We want to help you get there. It's an exciting process and we break it out. It's easy.
It's fun.
It is. Yeah. It is. And it brings up some great conversations. So if that's an area where you want to get more as a team and really move forward as a family, go check out our course.
It's called Step Families That Make It.
Now, maybe you want a better understanding of your individual roles as a bio-parent and step-parent, like we talked about, how important it is to know your role. And if that's where you're at, if that's where you need to get clear on, go check out that blog.
That's right. That one's called How to Parent as a Team and Steer Clear of Power Struggles.
Yes, yes. And then if you want to work on some practical steps towards being that authoritative parent, that's an awesome goal. Go ahead and check out Love and Logic or other parenting methods that guide you towards that authoritative parenting style.
Absolutely.
Really up your game with your parenting skills. We all need to do that, and it's totally doable.
Yeah. It's a learned skill, and we can all practice and we can all get better.
Yeah, our home was much calmer, and there was so much more order when we got Love and Logic under our belts.
Absolutely. So all 3 of those things, you can choose from one of those steps. All three of those are going to be in our show notes. Just go to support.mikeandkimcoaching.com/004. Again, that's support.mikeandkimcoaching.com/004.
Just pick one of those three. That's your challenge.
That's your challenge
for this
today.
week. Yep.
That's right. So go check that out. We would love to have you give us feedback as well. Please remember to subscribe or give us a rating or a review. We would love to get your feedback because we want to keep making this better. Now, next week, we are excited to dive into what we call touchy triggers and irrational influencers.
Ugh.
We all have them because we've come from previous relationships. We've had hurts. We've had hangups. And man, we trip each other's touchy triggers all the time.
We've
as
got
a couple.
the baggage.
Exactly. And so we want to unpack some of that and talk about how we're being influenced by some of the stories in our head. So
And give you some practical things you can do to move beyond those.
All right.
Yep.
Have a great week. We'll see you then.
Yep. Bye for now.